Now, if you have followed the sessions so far, you will know that the focus has been on English language reading. You've been thinking about why, what, and how writers write. It's a more analytical side of the subject, looking at how texts are constructed, how they're put together. So now it's time to move on and get your creativity going even more. Whatever examination syllabus you're studying, you'll be expected to write creatively. Often, this will be a description or perhaps a short story. The key thing to remember from the outset is this: always plan. This might be a spider diagram or a mind map. Perhaps you work differently with a list of ideas, or you like to draw out a flowchart of events. It's really up to you. The fiction writing task can take different forms, and here are some examples of those. You might be given a title for a story. Write a story with the title, The Day I Wanted to Change. Or perhaps you'll be given an idea. Write about a time when you were lost and alone. Sometimes you're provided with an image or a picture, and you're asked to write about something linked or inspired by this image. Perhaps you'll be given a beginning to a story. Write a story that begins, "That day was the worst one of my life so far." Or an ending. Write a story that ends with, "She looked back, realizing things would never change." Whatever you are asked to do, use your imagination. And remember, you are assessed on the quality of your communication. What you write, the tone, the style, and the content, which is to do with AO5, but also AO6, your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So now we're going to move on to think more about how you could approach different creative writing tasks. So, creative writing is an important part of your English language course. When writers produce writing, they often slave over it, come back to it, edit it, sometimes they even bin it. But in your exam, you won't have this luxury, unfortunately, because you'll have less than an hour to write something, whether it's a story or a description or whatever it may be. So let's get to it. So we're going to think in a bit more depth now about the ideas I've already gone through with you. Let's start with this one. You might be given a title for a story, such as, "Write a story with the title, The Day I Wanted to Change." Essentially, all you are given here is the title. So whatever you write afterwards is entirely up to you, but remember, you must plan. If you plan well, you are more likely to have a good set of ideas to help you through the response. We'll consider now different possible ways of starting with a title like this, The Day I Wanted to Change. I knew, as soon as I opened my eyes, that this was it. No matter how warm and cosy my bed was, how familiar my lovely bedroom was, one thing was for sure: this marked the first day of the rest of my life. Now you can see, hopefully, in this example that I've got straight into the story. It's written in the first person, which links to the title I have to use, and the final part of it leads the reader to hopefully wanting more. But I could start in a different way, such as, the light poured in through the gap in the curtains. The room was stuffy, overly warm, and it was mid-November, so it must have meant the central heating was on the blink. Again, dry lips, sticky eyes, muzzy head. That's how I felt, like I had a low-grade flu. I was fed up with it and I wanted to change, and this was the day. I made a decision, and that was that. Now you can see here that there are different ways of approaching such a task, and obviously there's a lot more you could write. These are just some ideas to get the creative juices flowing. Let's move on to look at a different question. Imagine you were given an image to inspire some writing. Here's an image and a task. Write about an incident that involved being on time and how being late would not have been good. Now this image can help you with your inspiration if you wish it to. Thinking about some ideas you might include. Perhaps it's an important life-changing interview for an amazing job. Perhaps you're nervous. You're fiddling with that watch, and that shows that nervousness. Perhaps you're meeting the managing director of your company and you're hoping to get an amazing promotion. You could start with something like, "Ben's new watch was his pride and joy. But his new suit was pretty special too. He knew that he had to be on time, which was difficult for him, and if he failed, he would never forgive himself. So what about potential pieces of creative writing that might be inspired by different images that you can see on the screen? Hopefully, you'll be thinking about ideas you might have. For example, what is the woman taking pictures of? Is she in the car alone or with someone else? Where is she? What about the snowy mountains? Are the climbers looking for someone or something? And what about the 5 guys in the other image? Are they planning something amazing or not? Now remember, your examination, your writing, your creativity. Let's move back to look at one other task from earlier on. Write a story that ends with, she looked back, realising things would never change. Now, whatever your story does here and whatever direction it goes in, you need to end it with that sentence. So here's an example for you. Anna loved her mum. She loved her dad too, but after what had happened, she knew it was unlikely to ever be any different. She left the house with its picture-perfect garden and smoke spiralling out of the chimney. And as she walked away, she looked back, realising that things would never change. Now, whatever you do in your examination, do please remember the importance of planning and of what you want to write. It is crucial to think about the direction you want your writing to have, as well as the structural organisation such as paragraphs and sentences. If you have some clear ideas from the beginning, it should help to make your writing better and stronger, and this will allow it to communicate more effectively with your reader.